Hi, everyone. We might get started soon. I'll just wait one more minute to let everyone that is maybe running a little bit late join, and then we will get going on how to set up a powerful paid social campaign. All right, we might get going. Thanks for everyone that is tuning in. Hopefully you can get a heap out of today. I guess it's really about giving you the foundations of setting up a campaign the correct way, optimizing the correct way, and allowing yourself to actually spend your money efficiently. So let's get started. As I said, welcome. A very quick introduction to myself. I know you're not necessarily here to hear anything about me. So my name is Jordan. I run a company called The Social Lab, but my background is mainly in social media. Have worked for media agencies in social media, was Spotify's social marketing manager, run my own thing, teach digital marketing at General Assembly for the last couple of years. And also the paid performance director at an agency called Thoughtful. So a lot of social experience across a heap of different brands, everything from fashion to tech, to music, to kind of everywhere in between. And through the Social Lab, helping a lot of smaller businesses. So not necessarily just, your big Spotify brands of the world, but also, small businesses and startups and everywhere in between. So very quickly before we jump into things, I've got probably about 20 minutes of slides just to take you through before we jump into the platform, so you have some background, and then we'll jump into the actual platform itself and set up a campaign. You can follow along if you like, or you can simply just watch the setup and have it later to kind of reference. You will also get a PDF after this webinar, which takes you through step-by-step everything we go through today as well. So that should be really helpful. But first and foremost, we need to think about what success on Facebook looks like. So a lot of people forget to do this, and it's super, super important. First and foremost is, what are you actually trying to accomplish? Facebook will ask you this exact question and will optimize your campaign for whatever you tell them. So if you tell me you want people to buy something online, then you shouldn't be optimizing for likes and comments, because that's not actually your end goal. So you always want to think about, yep, likes and comments would be nice, or reach would be nice, but what's my actual objective that I want to achieve from Facebook or Instagram ads? Secondly, I say this for everyone, one of the most important, they're all important, your audience, so who you actually want to reach. For anyone that has done any kind of Facebook or Instagram advertising before, the options you have with audience targeting is mildly creepy. But you can't take advantage of those audience tools if you don't know who your audience is. So have a really clear understanding of your audience before you even jump into the platform, or alternatively use the platform as a way to research your audience as well. So you'll see when we go in there. Second last, budget. Again, very important, but really think about not just what you've got to spend for the campaign, but what you're actually willing to pay per action. So if you tell me that you want purchases on site, how much are you willing to pay per purchase? If you're selling $30 t-shirts, then you probably don't want to pay over $5 cost per purchase. If you're selling $10,000, year-long courses, then maybe you're happy to spend a couple $100 cost per purchase. So think about, your returns and what you can actually afford to spend per action. And lastly, as a trained graphic designer, one of my pet hates in life is seeing bad ads. So think about what experience you want to deliver with your ad. Your ad should be an extension of your business. I do know that Plan had a very nice partnership and has that now with Canva, which is amazing. Canva can help you create beautiful looking creative very quickly, so you don't really have an excuse anymore to not have nice looking ads. So I will jump straight into the basics of how Facebook ads work. For those of you that may not know how it works or have never used it before, you're basically bidding for an audience. So let's say this is myself. I had longer hair at the time. I come to Facebook. There is actually a space where an ad can be filled. So what happens is Facebook goes to its back end and it looks at everyone that has bidded on that audience. So it says, what do we know about Jordan? We know she's kind of 18 to 30-year-old female. She loves drama TV shows. Who do we know that wants to reach that audience? Okay, we've got Netflix, Apple TV, and Disney Plus. If Apple TV said they're willing to pay the most, they win the bid and their ad is pulled in. So this is happening, in a microsecond, not even, and it's happening every single time your ad has the possibility to show. It doesn't mean that you're only bidding against people in your industry. That's not necessarily what we're saying here. What we're saying is that you're bidding on anyone that wants to reach that specific person. Let's just go back, sorry. There we go. So a typical campaign setup, I guess there is many different ways you can do this. I'm going to talk you through the typical setup. This is the flow. So we've got a campaign at the top level. At the campaign level, we select our objective. So everything that happens within this campaign has the same objective. We then have ad sets, and our ad sets are pretty much our audiences. So you can do quite a few different things at the ad set level, but what we really use ad sets for is to split our campaign into different audiences. And then lastly, you've got ads, so the actual creative. You can see it's kind of like a tree. So if any ads are within one ad set, it means it's only shown to that group of people. Now, as I said, the very first thing you have to do, and Facebook will also ask you this, is to set your objective. And Facebook will literally give you the option. So ask what your marketing objective is. There is 3 columns you can see here, and this is very much the, a typical marketing funnel, to be honest. You've got awareness objectives, consideration objectives, and conversion objectives. Very, very important you choose the right one, and I've got an example as to why, but there may be some that you haven't heard of before. So brand awareness you may not have necessarily used, and to give you a quick overview of what that is, the result you're actually looking for with brand awareness is ad recall. So Facebook wants to serve it to people likely to remember your brand or your ad, which is a slightly different one to reach, because reach is just showing it to the most amount of people, the most amount of times. So brand awareness could be a good one to look at rather than just doing reach, which a lot of people do. Another one that you may not have heard of, and I don't go through all of them because some are very, very straightforward, like traffic. Obviously, we want traffic. But lead generation is really, really good if you maybe don't necessarily have the means to set up a form on your website or need to do it quickly. So if anyone hasn't seen it before, a lead generation ad looks like this. So when you click on the ad, it actually pops up like a lead form within Facebook and pulls in their information from Facebook too. So it will pull in their first name, their email, their phone number. They click submit, and their information is emailed to you as the advertiser. So this is really, really good. As I said, if you don't want to send people to your website, it's also really, really good for competitions because it takes away that kind of multiple steps to send someone to a website, to fill in a form, to do something else. You can run competitions using lead generation campaigns and very, very cheaply get entries. They are then added to your email database, and that becomes a very valuable tool. So lead generation ads are something to consider if you haven't considered them before. Another one that you may not have thought about is actually an objective, which is having a conversation. So if your business really relies on having conversations with customers to convert them, then telling Facebook that that's what you want is really smart. So I think about things like, travel agents, hairdressers, anyone that you really kind of have to talk to before you book them into something, real estate agents, property managers, anything like that. Messages is a really good objective to think about. Now, the third column, which is probably where you get a bit more advanced, just purely from a setup side of things, the result you're actually looking for when you select conversions can be anything. So it requires you to have a pixel setup. Facebook pixels can be very simple if you have like a Shopify backend or WooCommerce or WordPress. If you have a custom site, they become a bit more complex. But what you're telling Facebook when you say conversions is that you don't just want someone to click, you don't just want someone to share it, you actually want something to do something on your website. So after they click on the ad. So this becomes very, very, very important, especially with any kind of e-commerce website. As I said, those conversions can be anything of value to you. So it doesn't have to be a purchase. It could be someone downloading a PDF on your site. It could be someone signing up for a newsletter. It could be literally anything that is a conversion to your business. You also have catalog sales, which is, I guess, a variation of conversion ads. I'm sure I'm not the only person that has had this, so hopefully it's a good example. But when you're online shopping and you're looking at black dresses, and then you come back to Facebook and it's a very lovely selection of black dresses for you in a carousel ad, they're using catalog sales. So it takes your product catalog and it dynamically serves product to people based on the product they looked at on your website. So it's a really big conversion driver, and it's all about that kind of retargeting to try to get them to come back and buy your product. So catalog sales, remember, can only be used if you have a product catalog. For any questions that do come through, just as a side note, we've got a bit of time at the end, so I'll go through and answer any questions at the end as well, just so you know. And then lastly, store visits. Store visits work, I guess it came from a lot of people with physical stores, physical cafes, anything like that, saying, Facebook ads are great, but how do we actually measure or target people when we have a physical store and we don't have a website to send them to? So store visits actually sends people ads when they come within a radius of the store. So you can imagine if you have a cafe and you want to tell people, hey, we've got this breakfast deal on, you could actually make sure that it only hits people with an ad when they're within walking distance of the cafe. So store visits, for anyone out there that does have a physical store, definitely worth looking into. All right, as I said, and I will hit this point home because it is very, very important, you need to choose the goal you actually want. This is an example after I'll go through, but within your audience, let's say I've got 18 to 25-year-old females. That's my audience. Within that group of people, there's people likely to do different things. So within those 18 to 25-year-olds, there are people who are likely to purchase online. There is people likely to watch videos. There is people that likely click on ads. And these people, they may overlap with each other, but you want to make sure that you hit the right people. So think of Facebook's objective setting as almost like a additional layer of targeting where you give them the group and they find the people within the group likely to do the thing you want them to do. Now, as I said, an example of just to show you how much this can impact results when you choose the wrong one. This was a Black Friday campaign we did for a client. And the top one is a campaign with a conversion objective. And the bottom one is a campaign with the traffic objective. So they were saying, okay, well, wouldn't it make more sense to just get more traffic to the site? More traffic to the site means more sales. That's not always the case because people might click on ads, but that doesn't mean that they shop online. That doesn't mean they purchase online, and we're not optimizing for the right people. So you can see the traffic campaign spent $1,100 and got not one purchase. So 4,300 people clicked through to the site and not one person actually bought something. Well, the conversion campaign only had 17,000 link clicks, only about 4 times as many link clicks, but got 1,700 purchases. So a huge difference in results. When the end result is actually purchases that we want, you need to tell Facebook that's the case, because you will not see the results. They will show it to people who click, but not necessarily people that buy. Really important. If you're going to take away one thing from this webinar, make sure is that you choose the right objective. All right, we'll go back to our campaign structure. So we've talked a lot about objective at the top, at the campaign level, but we need to talk about everything else as well. So you can see here 2 examples. Now, this is really how you use campaign structures when we're talking about Facebook and Instagram ads. Once we know what our campaign is, let's say it's new TV shows, we're a Netflix or a whatever it may be, and we're doing a campaign for new TV shows. So we know we have some TV shows that are really good dramas, and we know that we have, maybe some reality shows that are great for binge watching, but our diehard drama lovers won't want to see those trailers. I, for one, love them. We would split our audience into 2. So we would have people that love drama shows, people that love reality shows, and those 2 audiences would see content relevant to them. As another example, on the right-hand side, you've got jewelry store. Let's say jewelry store says, okay, we've got engagement rings, but we also have things that are really good for presents for friends. So one of our ad sets is going to be targeted at men in long-term relationships, and we're going to serve them engagement rings. On the other side, you've got friends of people with an upcoming birthday, and we're going to serve them things like bracelets, rings, Pandora, all these things in the hope that they buy a present. So if we go further into that, in terms of audiences who we're talking to, I'm going to go a bit more in depth into what's available, but a lot of Facebook audience is really just about getting in there and actually seeing what's available, because there is many, many things, and we could do a whole 2-hour webinar just on audience targeting. So very basic stuff you can think about. First thing is location. Facebook has basically given us all the way down to street level now, which is very creepy. But think about not just advertising locally because you are local. You may say, okay, we know that most of our orders come from a certain state, so let's just target that state. You can really get quite, creative if you know that there's like the first homeowners show on somewhere and your perfect audience is first homeowners, then maybe you could target around wherever that show is being showed, whatever it is. So location, you can use it very straightforward or you can get quite creative with it. Another basic thing to think about is just demographics, so gender, age, relationship status, education. I am very careful with this because I think, it's very easy to just put a gender and age in your audience because it's there, but that doesn't necessarily actually matter too much. To give you, a scenario why it would maybe worsen your campaign results, if you said my target market is 18 to 25-year-old females. If a 26-year-old female was going to be your perfect customer, but you put that age bracket on, they didn't see the ad. So I focus more on attributes in terms of what they're interested in and how they interact with my business, rather than things like gender and age, because I think they're not necessarily really good points to include. I'll answer this question because it's very relevant right now. Do I play around with audiences to get the best results? 100% yes. For many campaigns, I will have multiple audiences set up. Maybe, start with 6 or so and actually see which one garners the best results. So I will continually optimize. I think, with Facebook, it's all about testing and learning. I hate that buzzword. But it's very much about testing and learning and saying, okay, let's start with, these couple of audiences, see which gets the best results. Okay, that one did. Let's now refine that audience into 2 and try to get more specific with our messaging. A lot of it is, yeah, just kind of continually optimizing and refining everything about your campaign. There's a few different things. This is one of my favorite things that Facebook offers, and it's a friends of category. So you've got things like close friends of a female with a birthday in the next 7 days. If you're like a gift guide or anything like that, gift voucher, that is amazing. Perfect. You've got friends of newly engaged people, friends of people that just moved house, friends of newlyweds, heaps of different things available to give you context as to where this might be used. This is one of my favorite insights. A wedding dress boutique in Sydney basically saying how hard it was as someone in the wedding industry to get cheap advertising because everyone is trying to target newly engaged brides. So what she kind of came up with was, you know what, bridesmaids are just as, if not more, involved than the bride in the whole process. So she went friends of newly engaged people, females only, and targeted them with the same kind of wedding dress ads you would target with the bride, in the hope that they would like tag the bride and send it on and, you know, put it in their WhatsApp bridesmaid group. And she said when she actually tracked everything to see what led to appointments, that was one of like the most successful campaigns she's ever run in terms of actually booking appointments. So there are things like this, and a lot of it is just about exploring Facebook and seeing what's available, but you can get really creative with your targeting. Another question around audiences about, you know, how you name audiences. I think, and this is probably one of my biggest tips across the across the board, is try to come up with a naming convention that you use for everything. Because if you're trying to find an old campaign or you're trying to filter, if you use the same naming convention, you can search very easily and you can filter very easily. So audience sets might be, you know, April campaign, males 18 to 25-year-old, just engaged. If you use that same function every single time you name it, then you should be able to actually search by things, filter by things. It really depends on how you want to name it, that you can actually remember and make sense if you're looking at reports as well. Interest, another big one, and I'm sorry if I'm missing questions. I'm trying to read and present at the same time when they come through. But interest is another one, and probably something that a lot of people use as, I guess it's really one of the easiest things to think about, is, you know, do they have hobbies they're interested in? Are there brands that you might be similar to? And I think it's not necessarily that they've liked the brand, it's that they've shown an affinity for the brand. So they might have clicked on an ad, they might have gone to the website, they might have, you know, messaged their friend about it. So really, really important to think about, especially for smaller businesses. Try to say, okay, if I had to name 10 brands that I was similar to, what would they be? And could I target those people? It may not be that you're similar to those. It may be thinking instead, not who are we similar to, but if I had to say 10 brands my customer liked across any industry, who would they be? Because we know that's the kind of person we're after. So think about how you can use interest targeting to actually give you a good result. And when I say Facebook, yes, sorry, I do mean Facebook and Instagram. Everything I'm talking about is across Facebook and Instagram ads. It's called Facebook Ads Manager, which is why I probably just keep saying Facebook. But everything I'm talking about today is applied to both Facebook and Instagram advertising. So lastly, you've also got behaviors, and this is things like the device they're using, their income levels. For those in the US, you guys have way more options than those of us in Australia. So good for you. But it is about things like income levels. You've got event and action likelihood. So things like, you know, are they engaged online shoppers? Or are they likely to upload, you know, photos to Facebook? Kind of things like that. And then you've got online activity. So are they, you know, new technology adopters? Are they Facebook page admins? Are they small business owners? Heaps of different stuff, and we'll have a look through it. In terms of targeting competitive brands nearby, I've just seen a question around that. You can target any brand on Facebook as long as Facebook has enough data to do so. So it doesn't matter whether you have access to them or they're close by. The main thing to know is that it needs to be big enough for Facebook to have a data source. So if it's like a local business, maybe a small boutique, you might find difficulty in finding those people on Facebook, unfortunately. Another question about how the algorithm affects Facebook ads. The algorithm that you would have probably heard a lot about in terms of organic posting on both Instagram and Facebook, it doesn't necessarily affect ads at all. I guess it's slightly different thinking in that it's not an algorithm that shows people what's interesting to them, but it's still got an algorithm that shows what the quality ranking is, has a look at how engaged people are, and actually ensures that if we're running a really good campaign, our costs are less than someone that's running a really crappy campaign with bad ads that no one's clicking on. So kind of similar thinking to an algorithm, but it looks at, okay, is this a good ad and is it relevant to the people you're targeting? Hopefully that answers that question. At the moment, all I've talked about is what Facebook Ads Manager calls a saved audience. So this is you using Facebook's data sources and effectively giving them a criteria of people they have to find for you. If you just stay in saved audiences, that is fine. However, there is also two other things that we can look at. So second one is called custom audience. Now, custom audience has heaps of different options. There is, if you have a pixel, you can use website traffic, aka retargeting. So we can actually make audiences based on how they engage with our website. So things like maybe retargeting everyone that added to cart but didn't check out, or people that came to our website at all in the last 6 months. Any of those kind of things, you can filter your website traffic. Again, just a reminder to do that, you need to have the pixel installed. Customer file, we can actually upload like an email list, or if we had a MailChimp database, we can upload those people and target them. Of course, and I am definitely not a lawyer, but make sure that you have in your terms and conditions that you are allowed to use their emails for marketing purposes. Very, very important with everything going on around transparency and making sure that you're using people's data correctly. Very, very important. If you have an app, you can also install, I guess, the Facebook Pixel version for apps. So you can actually target people based on actions they do within your app. And you can also look at offline activity as well, which again requires a bit of setup, but looking at how people interact with your business, looking at your point of sale systems, trying to, I guess, connect that physical space to the online space. You've also got Facebook sources, which is kind of like an in-between. So you could retarget people if they viewed a video for 10 seconds or more and select the video. Or you could retarget people that clicked attending on an event, people that interacted with you on Instagram. Heaps of different things you can do. I guess the thing to remember with custom audiences is that none of these people should be new audiences to you. Any audience you use custom audiences for is effectively retargeting. They should all have interacted with your business in some way. That's the only way they can actually qualify for a custom audience. So think of custom audiences as retargeting. As a very, very quick definition, it's targeting a known group of people from your own data sources. I saw a question about just asking if your audience is quite broad, like let's say women's wear as an example. I think it's about, I guess narrowing that down to something that is a manageable size. So if I was in the US as an example, and I just said, interested in women's fashion, the number you would probably get would be 25 million people plus, probably even more than that, which is super, super broad and a massive audience. And if you don't have a huge budget to target all those people, you might reach 1% of those, if that. So I think thinking about, okay, instead of just women's wear, let's think of 3 brands that are really similar to us, or Do we get more specific with location targeting and only choose specific locations that we think would actually purchase from us? So the kind of optimum ad set size is about 1 million people. Obviously, depending on your budgets, but if you want just kind of a benchmark to kind of make sure that you're narrowing enough, 1 million people is a good size for an ad set. Remember that Facebook will still find the people within that million that are likely to do your action, but 1 million is a good place to start. How do you retarget your email list? I will show this when we jump into the platform, but you have to set up your email list as a custom audience, and then you can use that custom audience to target to. And lastly, last question to answer, someone said, what is a good number for audience size? As I just mentioned before, 1 million people in your ad set is a good place for prospecting. Obviously, if you're retargeting, it can only be as big as your retargeting pool. So if you only have 1,000 people on your email list, you can only target 1,000 people. All right, as I said, custom audiences are effectively just retargeting. And then lastly, so we've done saved, we've done custom audience, and our third one that we can do is called lookalike audience. And lookalike audiences are basically a way to find new people. And I've made this very easy to understand diagram for you guys. Let's say, as an example, Chris Hemsworth comes to my website and I make a custom audience of all of the Chris Hemsworths that came to my website. What I then do is give Facebook the custom audience, and I say, here's one person, find me another 20,000 people like it. So Facebook finds me another 20,000 people like it. So basically what Facebook is doing is it's looking at your original data source, figuring out everything it knows about that person, and then finding people similar to that person. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is, exactly the same age, exactly the same gender. Think about it as Facebook saying, if I put the same product in front of both these people, would they both be interested? You can see in this example, slightly different ages, they use different phones, but they both frequently travel business, and they're both into the footy, they're both quite wealthy, so they're probably into similar products. So, lookalike audiences are basically a prospecting tool that, rather than you trying to figure out who your audience is, you actually use your own data to lead your prospecting efforts. So if you need to reach new audiences and you have an email list or a heap of Facebook or Instagram followers or an event that a lot of people have clicked attending on, whatever it is, that is probably my best recommendation for finding new people, is to use lookalike audiences. Now, one quick reminder, I know I've said it, but just a reminder, Facebook Ads Manager runs ads on Facebook and Instagram, and I will show you all of the placements that goes. But I know you can obviously boost posts within the Facebook app, within the Instagram app. So this is really kind of the proper way of setting up campaigns rather than just boosting posts. So just as a little note. As a question that is very relevant, can you use Instagram followers to find your lookalikes? Yes, you can. It's not necessarily using our followers. It's using anyone that engaged with us on Instagram in a certain time frame. So that could include your followers. To me, that's actually a better data source than your followers, because it shows everyone that has liked a photo, that has clicked on an ad, that has done anything, even if they don't follow you, which is a good thing. All right, let's jump into the actual platform. All right, so we are going to go through this. As I said, there is a very good PDF. It is very in-depth in terms of instructions for you guys. So, you don't have to pick this all up in the next 45 minutes. So feel free to watch or follow along, whatever it is you want to do. To get to this place, one of the easiest ways to do it is to just go to business.facebook.com. You can get there from managing your ads in your Facebook profile. If you haven't got a business manager set up, I have put that in the PDF as well, but make sure you do. If you're running ads through your personal ad account, it is fine for a while, but it means that if you ever grow or you want to give access to someone else, it just becomes a little bit more difficult. So set up a business manager account. It means you can have multiple ad accounts, multiple people. It just makes things a bit easier working collaboratively. But we're going to start off. So this is your Ads Manager platform for anyone that hasn't been here before. Very, very simple. We've got our business manager accounts up here and our ad accounts over here. As I said, I'll go through questions at the end, and I'll go through this setup first, and then we can go through any specific questions. I think some questions will potentially be answered as we're going through the campaign setup. So in your Ads Manager section, at the top here, if you're not in Ads Manager, you can actually just get there from going to your Ads Manager setting. Some of you may be on the new setup. So Facebook does not roll out changes all in one go, which is very frustrating for those of us that teach it. But if you are in the new setup, it will be very, very similar, except for that these tabs, your campaign, ad sets, and ads will probably be down the side. The only reason I'm on the old setup is because I find it a bit less clunky and the new setup has been a bit glitchy at the moment. So if you're on the old setup, it will look like this. If it looks different, all the difference will be is that your tabs will be down the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new campaign today. And we're going to do that by clicking on the green create button. And let's just start again from this draft. So if you don't come to here, you might get an option that says either create campaign shells or create full campaign. What we're going through is creating a full campaign today, so not campaign shells. I will show you what creating campaign shells look like after we've gone through this process. But today we're setting up a full campaign. So if you haven't got here, remember it's just business.facebook.com is the easiest way to get there. Otherwise, from your personal Facebook, in the top right-hand corner, there is an arrow. You can click it, go down and click Manage Ads, if that's an easier way to get there. All right, so this should not be new to you. You have seen this in my slides. Facebook's first thing is that it will ask you what your marketing objective is. Remember, choose whichever one is your actual end goal. I know some people are like, oh, but I really want, likes and shares and comments. Shouldn't I click engagement? But if you still want people to go to your site and buy something, then you should be clicking conversions. Today, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to click traffic. If you guys are following along, make sure you click traffic, just so you're seeing the same thing as me, but I'll explain the differences if you do happen to click on something else. So we select traffic. If you saw this pop up here, for anyone watching that may be in one of Facebook's categories, things like finance, housing, credit cards, insurance, there's a lot of, categories that Facebook are a bit more strict on when it comes to targeting because they don't want to see as discrimination. So if you are in housing, let's say you're a property manager and you're putting together ads to put out new rentals, make sure you tick that you're in a special ad category because Facebook will just manually review that rather than just rejecting it, looking at looking at it as discrimination. So if you are in one of those categories, I suggest just clicking, choosing a special ad category, this link here, and just having a read up about it because, you might find that every ad you're doing is getting rejected. And that's purely because Facebook says, well, you're discriminating against certain people by targeting. So if you're not in one of those, your life is much easier. But if you are in one of those industries or your business does any of those things, just make sure you have a read up on that. As I said, I've selected traffic. Now, we had a question about this before, and this is a very good question about naming conventions. I typically will always go, let's say, the business name, maybe the year or the month, and then what it is, so traffic campaign. When I get to my ad sets, I might say, social lab, traffic campaign, female audience. Social lab, traffic campaign, shopping interests, whatever it may be. As we go down, there are two options. Creating an A/B test we're not going to do today, but if you wanted to run a fair A/B test where you're actually giving the exact same budget to both creatives or both audiences, you can do that. The other option is campaign budget optimization. Now, with budgeting and spending our money, there is actually two options you have here. So you have the option of setting the budget at the campaign level. And what this means is that you tell Facebook, I have $200 to spend. I'm going to set up a couple audiences, a couple different ads, but Facebook, I just want you to spend the money as efficiently as possible. If that means you spend most of it on one audience because that's the best, that's fine with me. So if your end goal is to get as efficient as possible, you turn on campaign budget optimization. So just a reminder, if you don't necessarily mind if budget is spent more on one audience or ad and you just want the best results possible, switch on campaign budget optimization. If you have, let's say, two audiences and you want to make sure that both audiences get the same amount of budget, you leave that off. So I am going to turn it on for today because my advice to you all is to turn it on. So we've got a couple options here. We can either do a daily or a lifetime budget. Obviously, daily means I say, here you go, here's $50 a day. Lifetime says, I've got a 2-week campaign and I've got $300 to spend. It is up to you, whatever you prefer. If I go lifetime budget, $250. Now, just to show you what these options are when I click show more options, because I know everyone likes to click into things, you do have different campaign bid strategies. And this is probably getting, I guess, more advanced than when you do actually want to look at things like return on ad spend and cost capping. The default campaign bid strategy will always be lowest cost. So you tell Facebook, here's my budget, get me the most results for the lowest cost. So it's very hands off, easy to do, and that will typically get you the best results. Some of the campaign bid strategies are more around cost capping things. So saying, I don't want to spend over $10 cost per purchase or whatnot. But you have to run some ads first to even know what a good kind of cost cap is. So I would say leave it on lowest cost. A question around what a good amount of money is to spend to make sure your ad is actually seen. This is a really hard question to answer, and everyone probably hates me when I don't give good answers, but it really depends on your audience. So when we get into audience, I'll show you when the audience size comes up. But if you're like a small local business and maybe there's only 30,000 people in your town, obviously you can afford to spend a lot less than a national e-commerce store that wants to reach a heap of people. So I will show you when we get to ad set, probably a better answer to that question where you can see the audience size and then based on your budget, how many people you're going to reach. And you can kind of keep upping your budget until those two things match. And that will help you know, okay, great, I'm going to see 100% of those people. So I will show you guys that. If you want more likes on your business page, a question, what the best choice is, traffic or engagement. Engagement is going to get you page likes. Traffic is going to get people to click on your ad and go to the website, and they're not necessarily going to come back and like your business page. I'm glad you asked this question actually, because this is a really interesting one. So I think a lot of people get really caught up on likes and business likes and comments and shares and whatnot. But that doesn't always mean success. So if you did a traffic campaign and 50,000 people went to your site, but not one of those people came back and liked your page, is that a good or a bad thing? I personally don't go back and like a Facebook page if I clicked on their ad and it was a good site. Even if I buy something and spend hundreds of dollars, my first thought is not, oh, I need to go back and like that ad because it gave me what I needed. So it's just about shifting your thinking around, what success actually looks like. So we also have ad scheduling and delivery type. Now, ad scheduling, if I wanted to, I could schedule it for certain days or certain times. Maybe you're a bar and you only want to show ads on Thursdays and Fridays to get people to come in on the weekends, but you want that to run for 6 months. That's something that you could look at. And also delivery type is either standard or accelerated. So standard will send the first dollar first minute of the campaign and spend the last dollar at the last minute of the campaign. Accelerated will just spend it as quick as it can get the results. I typically use standard because the longer a campaign runs, the more Facebook learns, and I find the more efficient it is. So if you can kind of let it go through that learning period rather than just spending all the money in a day, I think that's a better option. Now let's go continue. Now you can see here at any time, we've got our 3 levels. So we've got our campaign, we have our ad set, and we have our ad. So you can see the ticks there. We've set up our campaign. If you remember that kind of structure, we're now at the 2nd level at our ad set level. All right, so let's say we're setting up an ad set, which is social ad traffic. And let's say it's females in the US. I don't know, let's go fashion because that seems to be what we've been talking about. I should probably learn how to spell. There we go. Fashion. Now, the first thing it's going to ask you is where do you want the traffic to go? Now, this section is typically kind of a clarification of whatever you selected as your objective. So if anyone does have a pixel and selected conversion, this would say which conversion do you want to do? So whatever you selected as your objective, this will typically be different. We're doing traffic and we want to go to a website, so we're going to leave that as is. You've got 2 options here. You have dynamic creative, and that's kind of a way of, if anyone's into analytics, multivariate testing. What it is we give Facebook, let's say like 10 headlines, 10 images, and 10 bits of copy. And they will actually figure out what the best combination of those things are. With dynamic creative, I think the hardest thing is to have enough budget to actually run a fair test is very hard, because it means that you end up with, 45 different combinations, and to have enough money to spend on all of them that you have enough results to actually make a call on it is, quite difficult to do. I don't use it a lot because I find I prefer to make sure my ads work together so that the copy references the image and works with the headline. So I don't use it a lot, but you can definitely test it. And you also have this thing called offer here, which we won't go too much into today, but it's effectively like a mini coupon. So it might say, 20% off your order. They click redeem offer. They can get email reminders about it. And you can even get them to print it out and bring it into store. They can use a code, heaps of different options with it. I don't see it widely used. I think it's just never really caught on, to be honest. But it's something that you can definitely test if you've got an offer and you want people, I guess, from a physical store perspective to bring something in. That can be a really good one to test. Now, the actual fun part of ad sets is our audiences. So we have 2 sections. I don't know if you can see this very faint gray line here, but at the top, we have custom audiences. And at the bottom, this section is really about our saved audience features. So in our custom audiences, if we had set up one before and we wanted to use it again, if we click in there, it will actually show us all our audiences we have set up already. So we've got custom, we've got lookalike audiences, we have them all. If we wanted to, we could just click on one of those and use it again. If we hadn't set up anything, we can create either a custom or a lookalike audience from within here. So to create a lookalike audience, we need a source of data. So you need to actually do a custom audience first. But if we click custom audience, decide to go very slow. Let's try that again, shall we? There we go. So all of these are very straightforward. If you're not sure what they are, if you just hover over it, it will tell you. But make sure when you click on something like Facebook, while yes, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, they do actually make this kind of stuff really easy. So if I click websites, will then come up. Really not enjoying this today. And what it will basically do is give you a filter. So this says include any people who meet, we choose our pixel. This one is a test one, so it's red because it isn't installed. If your pixel is installed and working, it will be green. We can choose what that is. So is it all website visitors? Is it people that went to a specific page? If we had e-commerce capability set up, we could target things like added to cart or added to wish list, anything like that. Give our audience a name, social lab, web, retarget, and click create audience, and it is created. Now, all of these, I won't go through all of them because they're all quite straightforward. But as an example, Instagram business profile, we can choose an Instagram and say everyone that's engaged with our business, or we could say anyone that saved a post, anyone that sent us a message, and put a time frame. I won't go through all of them. I will let you guys explore that, but it's very, very straightforward. That will kind of take you step by step through what you need to do. For your first ad, yes, you can use a lookalike audience based on your followers of your Facebook page. You can't do a lookalike based on your followers of your Instagram page. You would have to go through here and make a custom audience of anyone that engaged with your Instagram business profile. I know there's a couple questions about the pixel, and I know we've kind of touched on it very quickly, probably more so because the setup and what you use it for is so varied for every business. So to explain what a pixel is for those of you that have not heard of it before, a pixel is effectively a piece of code that you put on your website, and it allows Facebook to access that data. So it allows Facebook to access the data from both a targeting perspective so that you can retarget those people, but also from a reporting perspective. So that within Facebook, if you put an ad out, you can see how many purchases happened, what was the value of those purchases, and what people actually did after they clicked on the ad. In terms of a source to implement the pixel onto our website, again, this is a hard question to answer because it totally depends on the setup of your website. I will show you here very, very quickly. If I go into pixels, if you are lucky enough to use, okay, hold on. Let's see. If you're lucky enough to use a kind of major website platform like even Wix, WooCommerce, Shopify, anything like that, let's go. You set up instructions. They make it very easy to add code using a partner integration. So if you use any of these, so you've got WooCommerce, Wix, WordPress, Shopify, Magento, Eventbrite, HubSpot, BigCommerce, any of these, you basically click on it and it will take you through step by step exactly what you need to do to set that up. Very, very simple. WordPress, there are many plugins you can use. Otherwise, if you have anything custom or anything outside of that, it's probably more a job for a developer because you want to install it correctly so that the data works. So I know that's kind of a difficult thing to answer, but yeah, if you do use a major platform, then they have made it quite simple. All right. So we're going to go back to our setup. Sorry for the deviation. Now we're still in our audience. So we're in our ad set. And as I said, if we wanted to, we can add custom or lookalike audiences here. You can add more than one. If you wanted to create more than one, you could. And remember, you can create your lookalike audience here as well. For now, I'm not going to put one of those in, but if you do put one in, you can still layer things on top. So if I put in a custom audience of everyone that came to my website in the past 3 months, but I wanted it to be only in Australia, I can do that. So you can layer these elements on top of your custom and lookalike audiences. Now, we are going to go into saved audience aspects. So the first thing being your country, city, state, whatever it may be. You can add in multiple of those, and you can also exclude things. So if I wanted to say I want to reach everyone in Australia and the US, but I don't want to reach anyone that lives in Sydney for some reason, we don't want to reach those people. We've now added in Australia and added in the US, but it's not going to show anyone in Sydney the ad. Something that's really important that a lot of people don't look at is this little drop-down menu here. So this is people living in this location. We have people recently, we have people traveling in this location, or we have everyone. Now, if you are a tourist business, it makes a lot more sense for you to be targeting people traveling in this location rather than people living in this location. So a lot of people don't even realize that they can change this, but you need to make sure you select the right one. I'm going to select everyone for now. A question around just uploading emails for custom audiences. I would add all of your segments and your different email lists separately, because there's no reason why you can't add them all up here and add in all 10 of those email lists. But if you keep them segmented, it means that if you ever need to just target one of those audience lists, you can do that. So upload all your lists separately, because there's no reason why you can't target more than one of them at a time. All right, so we have our location. If we want age and gender, obviously we can just edit that. As I said, unless there's a really specific reason, I wouldn't necessarily put age and gender filters on. With your custom audiences, it really depends. Your custom audiences, in terms of location, you may not necessarily need to put something on there. It's only if you want to. If you just want to retarget everyone that's been to your website, leave location as everyone in the world. Totally up to you with that. All right, so where we start to actually get a little bit creepy is into detailed targeting. So if we click edit, we have a couple of options with detailed targeting. So first option is that, to turn off age and gender. We don't necessarily turn it off. We just leave it at the absolutes. So 18 to 65 is everyone, and all genders is everyone. So just leaving it as open as possible, not necessarily turning it off. All right, so detailed targeting, as I said, let me just make this a bit bigger for you guys. There we go. Is that you've got a couple options. So the first one is to browse. And browse, you can really just click into things. Go down, as I said, you've got income level there for the US. We've got parents of certain ages. We've got relationship status. One of the most interesting things to do, or if you're trying to kind of brainstorm campaign ideas, is just to go into these and have a look, because you might actually find things that you didn't think about before. If you are looking for life events, we've got anniversaries coming up, that they're away from their family. This friends of topic that I talked about earlier, we've got that there as well. Heaps of different stuff you can look at. So I would suggest just jumping in there and kind of clicking into every single thing and having a look. The other option you have is literally just typing something. So if you told me I want to target people that like Amazon, I can have a look there. Make sure you read down here. It kind of tells you what that fits into. So someone with an interest in Amazon is different to someone that owns an Amazon Kindle Fire, who is very different to someone that works at Amazon.com. So make sure we're actually targeting people with an interest in Amazon. And the third option that I said is your suggestions. So what suggestions does is once I put one thing in here, I click suggestions, and it gives me similar things. So A, it's a good way to make sure that you've selected the right thing here. But also if I wanted to, I could be like, oh, yep, eBay would be a good one, Alibaba, maybe Shopify, whatever it is. I can chuck them all in there. So one of the other most important things, I told you objective. This is the second most important thing to take out of today because it is probably the most widely used thing wrong that I see on Facebook ads. As I put more things in here, it does not mean that they have to match all of them. So as an example, if you told me I want to target people that are interested in both fashion and dogs, this does not mean they're interested in both. This actually means that they can be interested in either shopping and fashion or dogs or both. Which in some cases is exactly not what you want. You want them to be invested in both of those things. If that is the case, there is something down here called exclude or narrow audience, and you need to make sure you click narrow audience. So instead of having dogs in there, I click narrow audience and put dogs in here. See now it says here, and must also match. This is a really good diagram. That Venn diagram, this is now targeting those people in the middle of the Venn diagram. If I had left it before, it treats them as two circles and they can be from either one of those circles. It's one of the most important things. If there are multiple things that someone needs to be in all of them, make sure you click narrow and add those things in. Maybe they also need to like healthy food. I don't know. Interesting targeting going on here. So this is narrowing that audience. You'll find if you do it the other way and put them all in here, the audience actually gets bigger and bigger because you're actually giving them way more things that they can be interested in, and they only have to be interested in one. So a huge thing to remember today. You've also got targeting expansion, which says to Facebook, hey, if there's people outside of this that you think might be interested, I'm happy for you to target those people. So from a cost efficiency perspective, I normally tick this on. It makes the audience a bit bigger and just allows Facebook to optimize with a bit more freedom. A note for everyone, because I know people are really concerned that Facebook is out to get their money and not going to do the right thing. Facebook only makes money when you make money and come back. So it is in Facebook's best interest to actually give you results, because otherwise you won't ever come back and spend again. So don't ever think that Facebook's kind of out to get you. Because that's definitely not the case. Now, the question that I kind of answered and said I'll come back to in audience is around how much do I need to spend to reach my audience? So you can see here, up here, it says what the potential reach is. So this is saying for everyone in the US and Australia that is interested in shopping, dogs, and healthy food, there is 11 million people. Now, my estimated daily results are based on the budget that I put in. So if I just quickly scroll down here, I haven't put any budget in at the moment. I'll come back to that. When I put my budget in, this estimated daily results will change, and I can keep changing the budget until it matches that 11 million people. I would say you don't need to worry about reaching 100% of your audience. Especially if you've got an 11 million person audience, Facebook will find the most efficient audience for your objective. So if you only have enough budget to reach 500 people of that 11 million, Facebook will find the 500 best people of that 11 million. It's a very big tongue twister. So I wouldn't stress too much, but you can use this kind of sidebar here to help you figure out, is my budget enough? Just remember that this is estimated daily results. So if I set up a 2-week campaign, I times my daily results by 14 to know how many people it's actually going to reach. All right. There are a few more options down here. We've got languages if you need it, and you've also got connections. So you can target people that like your page or exclude people that like your page. Kind of similar to custom audience, it's just done down here, but you can actually just do that as a custom audience as well. If you are going to use this audience over and over again, let's say it's like your very generic audience that you're going to use in all your campaigns, you can actually save the audience. And that way, next time, you can just use a saved audience here. So rather than having to go through and put it in every single time, you can just use that saved audience. All right, now the second last thing that we have to think about in the ad set is placements. As I said, now I would always leave automatic placements on. That means Facebook will put it across Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. But if you actually just want to see what those placements are, if you go to manual placements, it gives you the list of everywhere that it sends your ad. And when you hover over those things, see, it shows you a little preview of what that looks like. Now you have feeds, so Instagram feed, Facebook news feed, Messenger inbox ads. We've got stories, Facebook stories, Instagram stories, Messenger stories, in-stream videos on Facebook search results. If you haven't heard of it before, there's also something called Audience Network. And Audience Network is basically all of the placements that Facebook purchases outside of Facebook. So they might purchase it in blogs. They might purchase it on apps like Candy Crush. They purchase a heap of different ad spots. So if you don't want it to go outside of Facebook and Instagram, you can just untick that. I would typically leave it on unless it's a very brand safe brand, because it will give you more reach and maybe reach people that don't come on Facebook and Instagram a lot. But it just means you have a little bit less control around, knowing exactly where that's going. If you want to get more advanced, you can start to look at kind of block lists and whatnot. But yeah, totally up to you guys. I typically leave everything on. After your campaign is run, you can see where it actually went. And I would say 90% or even more, 95% of your ads will be shown on Instagram and Facebook only. So lastly, we have optimization and spending controls. Now let's just start that today. Your optimization should always reflect whatever you selected as your campaign objective. Because we just selected get us the most amount of results at the lowest price, we don't have a cost control. If we had selected cost control, it would ask us to tell Facebook how much we want to spend. We've got a schedule, so we're running it for a month. We haven't put in let's put in our budget, sorry. Daily budget. All right, still not, that's a bit glitchy. It's saying $0, it should be telling us $100 because it's got that data there. So we can either start and end date, or we can just put a daily budget on and say, okay, we're just gonna have this ongoing and we can turn it off at any time. If you don't do it at the campaign level, you just set the budget at the ad set level. So as I said, it is up to you, depending on whether you want to make sure different audiences have the same budget or whether you just want to get the best results. Now, when we're happy with that, we click continue, and we're now down, sorry, I think my video is covering this section, but we're now down at the ad level. So again, we want to call it, let's say we're doing a video ad. We put the Facebook page that we want, the social lab, and we can either use the Instagram account. Hopefully you'll have Instagram or plan users. So you should be able to add that in there. But if you don't have Instagram, then you can actually just use the selected Facebook page. So if you don't have Instagram, you can still advertise across Instagram with Facebook Ads Manager. All right, now a couple different options we have here. We've got creating a new ad, using an existing post. So if you do want to boost a post, this is kind of like the proper way of doing so to actually make sure that it's targeted correctly and it's optimized for the objective that you want. If you've ever created mock-ups, which is in a section up here, you can also use those as well. Today, we are just going to create a new ad. So this using dynamic formats and ad creative is dynamic testing. So we give it a heap of creative, copy, headlines, and it will choose all different formats and combinations. you have, for traffic anyway, carousel, single image video, or collection ads. And you also have instant experiences, which are kind of like a full screen, I guess, mini landing page that you actually build on Facebook. I will try to go through. I am seeing your guys' questions come through, trying to kind of weave them in to answer them as I go through. So hopefully I answer them all. But we're just going to do single image or video for now. I know there's questions around, I know, heaps of things out there say video is better than images or stop motion or GIFs or all these different things. I think it really depends on the creative. I see really good results from just still banners. It's not kind of similar to the algorithms on Facebook and Instagram organically where, one format works better than the other. It's really about like, is your offer more enticing than anyone else? Is it relevant to the audience? If it's a big sale and it's just a still that says 30% off everything, it's not going to matter whether it's a video or an ad. People are going to click on it regardless. So yeah, I would say there's not kind of a very clean-cut answer to whether video or stills are better. But anyway, you can test them. I think, as I said, Facebook is a lot about testing and learning. So it's really about saying, okay, well, let's set up one video ad and one still, and let's see which actually performs best. As I said, single image or video we'll do today. You need to add your media. So add image or add video. This is my student account, so we've got some random things. Let's go this photo of pillows. Continue. Now, really important here, and this is one of the best things that Facebook ever did, was allow us to customize our images for different placements. So at the moment, this is a square, which is fine for feed, but on stories, it's not going to be vertical. So I can select a placement to customize and say, okay, for stories, let's just change it to Instagram stories. So see, at the moment, it's a square. Looks kind of crappy. We want that to be vertical. So we have two options. We can either crop it to be vertical, if that works, or we can actually change it out completely for a vertical image. So it's going to be the same ad, but there's going to be a vertical version for stories. So what I want everyone to get into the habit of doing is when you're creating ads for Facebook and Instagram, always create one square version and one vertical version. Let's say I just wanted to crop it instead. I click crop, click vertical. Luckily, that fits just in there. And I need to put a link in. When it decides to check itself, thesociallab.co. Really battling today. There we go. And save. And now you can see 9 placements are using the square image and 4 placements are using the story crop. So really important because I think stories look much, much better when, you've got that vertical crop. I know this seems like it's quite complex just watching someone do it. I personally can never learn just from watching someone go through the process, but it's really step by step. So if you're feeling like it's a bit kind of like all over the place, when you open it up, just work through step by step. At any point, Facebook has help, and it will be a lot easier when you're actually in there doing it yourself. And yeah, as I said, there's a PDF coming out with really good step-by-step instructions. So that should be a lot of help too, hopefully. Now, in terms of the images that you do use, there is limitations around how much text can be in those images. So the limit is 20% of your text, 20% of your image can be text. If you ever need to check, just at the top in this menu, if you go down to Creative Hub, I'll open that in a new tab for everyone. There is a image text check here. Now, if I click image text check and upload an image, let's just say, I don't know, this random image. Uploads. You can see here, just while it's uploading, I'll explain it. So there's image text ratings here. So here we've got an image and it says, yep, that's fine. It will run normally. If it had text, it will give me a rating. And if it's too much text, the ad might actually get rejected fully. But if there's just a little bit more text than there needs to be, it will just tell you, look, your ad could actually be running better if it had less text. As a general rule, I actually try to leave like almost no text in my images, because what you want it to look like is it's just part of the organic newsfeed. So you don't want it to look like an ad. You just want it to kind of organically fit in and people are like, oh, that's really cool, and click through. So yeah, I would say try to leave text off images as much as possible. But going back to our campaign setup, once we've added the media and customized it, we then just have to finish off building it. So the primary text, see as I put things in, it updates it on the preview on the side here. So this is the headline, and that is now when it loads. So it's all just updating on the preview. At any time, you can see what that looks like. If you want to change it, change it. Down the side here, you've got all the different placements. So this is what it looks like on the mobile newsfeed on Facebook. But let's say you wanted to go down and make sure it looked okay on Instagram feed. We click on Instagram feed and it loads there and we can see what that looks like. So as kind of a general process, I like to just go through and make sure it looks okay on all of them. Some might take away one headline or whatnot, and that's kind of annoying. So if it doesn't work, you can always just edit that particular placement. I know this feels complex. If you want to just add one square image, put the copy in and don't change it for any placements, that is totally fine. It will still run and it will still be fine. It's just about optimizing it for the best performance. Now, call to action is really important. Make sure that it's what you actually want it to be. We can't write our own, unfortunately. But let's say it's, shop now or sign up, learn more, whatever it may be. If you're working with a business partner, maybe it's a sponsored post, maybe you're an influencer, you can also tag them in so it's branded content. You've also got an option to add it in different languages if you need. And then the last thing is just about tracking. So if you do have a Facebook pixel, make sure that it's on so that it's tracking it and you can report on it. If you have any offline events, you can track them. And for anyone that is very, very savvy with all this stuff that uses UTM tracking parameters, you can add them in there. If you are not really concerned about tracking, I've got a lot of clients that are, small businesses, and they're like, well, we don't need all of this. We just want to get ads out to tell people, we're open on Sunday. You can just leave all of that. That is fine. Once you're ready to go, you can either click review to have a look at it all if you want, or just click confirm. And this basically sends it off to Facebook for approval. Now, Facebook approvals, generally, I would say maybe take half an hour max most of the time at kind of key periods like, Black Friday and Boxing Day sales and big sale periods. Sometimes it will take a bit longer just because everyone is trying to get ads approved. So just give yourself time to make sure that you're, creating with a couple hours spare. You don't need it to go live straight away. You can see here it says in review, and that will change as soon as it's approved. So it will actually go into learning phase. If you have one and you're not sure if you want it to go live yet, at any time, you can just switch that on and off with this little toggle here. So switch it on, switch it off. If when it decides to stop, I've got my campaign, I've made one ad set and I've made one ad. So think of this as like a filing system, and I can just click into the tab to see the ads, or the ad set, or the campaign. If you're in the new one, it will be down the side here. Now, at any time, if I need to edit something, you can edit. Probably one of my favorite things about Facebook ads is that you can edit anything, even when it's live. So as example, if you've got this going and someone says, you know what, I actually think we should include females in this audience as well as males, or maybe I want to take out the US, I just want to target Australia. If I hover over it and click edit, now I don't know if you can see, but it's basically brought out this sidebar. So see here, this sidebar, if I click that gray bar, this is kind of like your editing panel. So I can just scroll down and I can edit anything. So this is my audience. It should look very, very similar to what you did when you initially set it up. But it means you can edit anything. I guess down the side here, my easiest way to explain it to everyone is, again, just think of it like a filing system. So I've got my campaign, my kind of master folder. I can click in that. I can edit something there. I go into my audience folder. I go into my ads folder. One of the quickest ways that I find to then make new ads, let's say I wanted to actually have 2 different ads going, is I can actually just duplicate this here. So if I duplicate it, click duplicate. See, and I have 2 ads. So I have my original one and I have a copy. And this copy, I can just go down and edit everything. So I could change the image, I could change the text, change everything about it. So that's a really, really quick way that you can just create multiple ads. At the moment, obviously, we've got 1 campaign, 1 audience, and 2 ads now. Same thing happens, we could just duplicate the audience and try a different audience. Or the last way you can do it is, let's say we're in our campaign and we want to make a new audience, just click the create new button from wherever you are. And see, it's already selected the campaign for me. So I'm not making a new campaign, I'm making a new audience and a new ad within my existing campaign. I know, trust me, I totally know that just looking at it from afar is, always looks much more confusing than it is. A lot of it is just jumping in there, setting up ads, setting up as many as you can, just making sure that everything's always turned off so you're not spending any money. I would say, you know, easiest things to look at when it starts running, it will give you a lot of results here, but there is a little column kind of selected here, so you can change the columns to see which metrics you want to see. I mean, what you're really looking at is your results, and those results are dependent on the objective that you chose at the campaign level. So if you selected video views, your results will show how many video views you got. If you got engagements, it will show engagements. I think that that's kind of really all I wanted to take you guys through in terms of setting up a campaign, where things are. I know with good confidence that the PDF will help you hugely, just from a kind of walking through step by step what you need to do and what it all means. Probably even has things that I forgot to tell you today. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. We've got about 5 minutes left. So if anyone, I can now give time to the comment section. So if there's any questions, if it's specifically for your business, you know, I probably can't go into specifics for each business individually, but if there's questions overall about Facebook and Instagram ads, setup, ad types, anything, definitely jump in the comments now and ask them, and I will, oh, there you go. Here's one. How do we A/B test ads? The easiest way that you can do that is when you're creating a campaign. At the very start, let's say I do traffic and I do an A/B test. It will actually ask me what I want to test, and I can test the creative, which is the ads. So I click creative and see now it's set up 2 ads for me. So it's actually set up that A/B test for me. So hopefully that answers that question. Setting up Instagram ads in Facebook, a question, do we set that up? Yes, everything that I've just walked through that we set up, this one here has been set up to go across Instagram and Facebook. So if I go into the audience I've set up and click edit here, That's when we talk about placements. So if I go down and look at the placements, it's going across Facebook, Instagram, Audience Network, and Messenger. So anything you set up this way will go across Instagram and Facebook. Got a question around getting signups to free courses to get leads. I think it would be really interesting. Anything where you need signups, I generally say like a lead generation campaign is, amazing for it, because it takes out that kind of like extra 2 steps of going to a website. And the same for if you're running a contest or a competition. Lead generation is really good because they, click twice and they've entered. So you'll find typically, a cost per lead with a lead generation ad is around 10 cents. So very, very cheap. And what you're telling Facebook is find me people that are likely to fill out a lead generation form. So very, very handy. I would say maybe you could test it. I know a lot of our clients will say, let's test a lead generation campaign versus a conversion campaign that sends people to the landing page. And we will always find better cost efficiencies from the lead generation campaign. So whether it's signups or competitions, I think, definitely have a look at lead generation first. Let's have a look. Couple other questions. Okay, I know this is a big problem that a lot of people have, where you're part of a bigger company and you don't necessarily have access to the pixel, or you can't install it, or you can't make changes to a website. I think about what you can do without that pixel. So you might be making custom audiences based on like engagement with the social media page, maybe engagement with certain videos on your profile. I think it would more be a case of how you're going to report success to head office. If you can't have a pixel in and you can't report on conversions or anything like that, that's going to be really hard. So I think like really try hard to educate them as to why having access to that pixel is so important, because it's a massive changer. Otherwise, using something like lead generation forms or instant experiences are really good, because you kind of control the website and make your own landing page rather than sending them somewhere else. Hopefully that helped a little bit. The main difference between setting up Instagram ads with Facebook Manager and doing a paid promotion on Instagram, really just about choice and optimization. Doing paid promotion on Instagram, for anyone that has done it, is really kind of the equivalent of boosting a post on Facebook. So you're really just doing it for reach and engagement, which for a lot of us is actually really helpful to get, a couple extra 100 likes on a post, or I'll reach a couple thousand more people. But I think with Facebook Ads Manager, what you're really trying to do is like actually show impact for your business. So we're not just trying to reach more people. We're not just trying to get more likes. We're actually trying to get people to go and buy something from us, or sign up to a webinar, or download a PDF, whatever it may be. It's probably just more when, your goals lay outside of just engagement and reach, I think is the biggest difference as to why you would use those two differently. And probably more targeting options as well, to be honest. Things like custom audiences, lookalike audiences, all those kind of things you'll notice are not necessarily very simple and easy to do just within paid promotions on Instagram. One more question. If anyone, I guess, the hard thing is any kind of tech issues, anyone having issues getting into Business Manager or signing up for ad accounts. It is a hard thing for me to address to everyone online at once. But if anyone kind of has any issues, the Facebook Help Center is actually really, really good. They have a support inbox, and you can very easily message them as well for any questions or issues or setup problems that you do have as well. So hopefully that was really helpful for you guys. As a kind of final thing from my end, I guess, we've gone through questions. But as I said, if anyone has specific issues or setups, my business is called The Social Lab. So we do a heap of different stuff. Most of the time, what we actually try to do is help, similar to this, small businesses kind of do it themselves. We don't really have, you know, the wants to go and take it off you and do it for you. Like, we want you guys to actually learn to do it yourself, because we do actually believe that once you've kind of got the right help and you know, got the right lessons, that you can and should be able to do things yourself. So yeah, whether it's websites or paid social or anything digital, if anyone needs any help, feel free to reach out. But hopefully this was really helpful, and you guys will get PDF, recording, everything, so you can listen to my voice over and over again. But otherwise, thank you all for joining. And yes, hopefully you all have a lovely day.